morning, everyone. Let's share this. Of course, my neighbors had to just start the lawnmower right when I decided to go live. But that is life, I guess. Let's see. Are we live? I think we are live. Should be. Yep, my phone says we are live. All right. So how's everyone doing this Saturday morning? Big thank you to all the Patreon supporters and everyone who's been watching the live feeds. If you did see my announcement yesterday, you must have seen that the Artist in Residence program has come to a conclusion. It's not ended as such, there's always learning involved and stuff to be done, so don't think I will stop posting about my spinning or stop going live. That's all still happening. I hope my Patreon supporters still enjoy the live feeds and all of that, so that's gonna still continue. And the main reason I wanted to make the announcement was that the wheel on which I'm spinning, the Aura from Masha Craft, is now in its forever home. So it's gonna stay here, and she has a name too. Her name is Sheila. So that's where we are at. I really wanted to make that announcement and let everyone know, because it has been 5 months of making a lot of yarns on this wheel, and it's been a lot of fun, and I want to continue making it. Though after all the crazy yarns I have made on this wheel, I did think that Sheila wanted some rest and do like a regular just like a regular simple spin, nothing complicated. So that's what we're doing this morning. Is anyone else spinning today? It's a good day. I was very tempted to go out and spin in the backyard because it's not that cold this morning, but it is still cold enough that after like 15 minutes of having my coffee out there, I was like, nah, I'll just go inside. And I was drop spinning on my drop spindle outside. But yeah, I still have my coffee left. I didn't even finish my coffee. I was like, no, I'll just go inside. I'll give Sheila some love here. Hi, Jillian. How are you doing? I don't know if you heard or you joined from the very beginning, but I just made an announcement about the Aura wheel staying with me, and her name is Sheila. So that's what's going on, and I wanted to give Sheila some rest. So she's just spinning some very regular worsted weight yarn. Uh, the fibers I'm using are this currently in my hand is Pulworth silk. It's a 80-20 blend from Rainy Creek. You're drinking coffee. Yes. And yeah, someday you'll have one of my mugs. That'll be great. And I'm also drinking from one of my cups, but this is probably from 2011. So this particular mug is probably 10 years old, uh, and I still use them. Yes, it's been quite a process, uh, learning everything I wanted to spin on the wheel, and because Sheila has worked very hard for the last 5 months making all my crazy yarns, and I was like, okay, she needs to do something very simple, just a regular worsted weight yarn. So what my plan is I'm spinning actually a bunch of yellow green fibers. This I said is some Pulworth silk from Rainy Creek, 80-20 blend. Uh, then there is this Merino, which is a very bright yellow with a little bit of green in it. This Merino is something I've dyed myself, and there is this almost a solid color, uh, chartreuse kind of a green, and this one is from Sweet Georgia yarns, and this is I think a 85-15 blend. So I decided to mix them all up, and this is how I store them. I put them in these tennis ball containers and make these tiny nests. I split them up into smaller pieces, and I've put them, I think random is an order as well. I'm glad, Jillian. I'm glad you're enjoying my yarns. I have, I'm pretty sure you're the same Jillian I think you are, but I'm going to check again because I follow you on YouTube, but there is always a confusion. There's always more than one Jillian. I know. Like there's more than one Karen I know, and it's, you know. Yes, you are the same Jillian. Okay, good. Because I have watched several of your videos as well, and I love your way of presentation and the way you approach all your different yarns. I've seen you have done some art yarns as well, and I especially like the video in which you actually used your art yarn for something. I think you knit a pair of gloves and a hat, I believe. So I follow you on YouTube, and it was, I get asked this question a lot when people see my art yarns, like, yeah, but what are you going to use it for? Oh, that's really cool, but what are you going to use it for? My goal, or what I like to achieve with art yarns, is essentially to make the yarn. I enjoy the process of making those yarns, the complex yarns, how to figure out, problem solve. If it's getting extra twist, how to solve that. Do I want to core spin? Do I want to spiral ply? How do I add the elements? How do I put together different elements to represent the yarn I want? There are like so many aspects to making yarns like that, that for me it's that part of the process which is very exciting. So I don't think beyond that. Uh, and I have made art yarns before, and I've used them mostly in weaving. I've used them in few knitting projects as well, but mostly in like sari weaving. So I I try to I try to think of making yarn as part of my process, not like, oh, what are you going to use that yarn for? My goal was to make that yarn, and I made it. So I know it's not a finished object as such, but to me it's a finished project. So eventually that yarn can be used for something. And I do like the fact that you actually use some art yarns to do something. So I can point people here, this is what you do with art yarn. There are people who have purchased my art yarns and I've made beautiful projects with them as well. So you just have to be a little bit more creative than your traditional yarn. Well, I'm glad you enjoy the techniques I put together. I try my best. But you know, every now and then Sheila needs a break, and she was like, I'm tired. And we said, okay, let's just spin some very simple yarn. Yep, making the yarn is a project itself. I agree. Are you coming up with some new videos recently? I think the last I saw was the one in which you were doing, you were using the art yarn. I don't remember seeing one after that. I'm pretty sure I subscribed to your channel, so usually my morning coffee is catching up on all my YouTube subscriptions and seeing what is everyone up to. So, you see this kind of craziness that happens every now and then. That's a little bit of felting that has happened on the outside of the fiber during the process of dyeing. And with the way that felting has happened, and the way the fiber is dyed, I am almost sure this was like kettle dyed. You have so many projects. Kind of like me then. It's like the list of things is so huge. So even when the uh, fibery goodness artist in residence program, you're kind of deciding like an end date. I'm like, can there actually be an end date? Because there is just so much stuff that I still need to do. And I'm like, yeah, I'll always, uh, it's like a lifetime of stuff, right? There's just so many ideas and so many things that can be done. And and the thing is, it's not that the stuff is very new or it hasn't been done before. uh, like recently I got this book, a very old spinning book. I'm forgetting the title of it, but it's by Mary Beth. And I don't know, are you aware of it, Jillian? It's it's a very simple book. It doesn't have the crazy pictures and a lot of stuff. It has few pictures and a lot of illustrative things. Small spiral bound book, but it has so many different kinds of yarns in it, which art yarns, and it's a very old book. I think it was written in the 50s or something. So there are so many art yarns like described in text out there and few images. So yeah, you have a nice piece of pottery with yarn in it. Art yarn has its purposes. I love watching my wall, which is filled with art yarns hanging out there, and it can just exist. It makes a beautiful decoration, and that's the other reason why I like uh, sauri weaving, because it's kind of like just weaving in a strand of your art yarn here and there to make it stand out and just hanging it on a wall. rather than people just seeing it as a yarn form, it can be like a tapestry or a pillow cushion or something, and it just displays the yarn very nicely. And I have been craving once summertime hits, like we are in spring right now, but once this time hits, I kind of try to shy away from knitting projects because it's warm and I don't want a whole bunch of knitting in my hand. Like I'll do socks and hats, like smaller knitting projects, no sweater knitting in the summer. Or I'll do some blanket knitting, but not the kind of blanket knitting which requires the whole blanket to be in your lap. Like, sectional stuff where I'm just knitting on some small squares or something like that. But so instead of the knitting, I like to weave during this time. And I've been craving to warp my loom with something, uh, and I like the idea behind Sauri weaving, that it there hasn't there doesn't need to be this very big planned idea of what you're going to do. You can just have a warp and you can keep changing and keep weaving whenever you feel like, whatever you feel like, and keep moving on. Yeah, where are you located, Jillian? Because here it actually doesn't get that hot. Like peak summer, we reached, you know, in the 80s sometimes. Will hit like maybe a week of 90s, and that's about it. So it really doesn't get that hot, but also we don't have any air conditioning here. So it's more like mental thing as like, hey, it's summer. I don't want a lot of warm knitting in my hands. But like I said, I still knit on socks, I'll knit on hats, I'll knit on small projects. But weaving is kind of nice during that time. That way, the loom doesn't get ignored, which last year I did do a lot of weaving, a lot of Saudi weaving. And since I uh, got the Aura wheel in October, is I think when I started with the Artist in Residence program, I have spun quite a bit of art yarns. You're in Northern Illinois. Yeah. Yeah, humidity. That's what I can't take. I don't like humidity. I know it's funny coming from a guy in India because uh, I come from Mumbai and Mumbai gets very humid. And the monsoon season and everything, like this month of May, which is coming up, is like just brutal out there. And then the rain's actually welcoming. They kind of cool down stuff, but the month of May is super hot. And yeah, but I I don't like humidity at all. I The one place I visited where after several years was where I got reminded of what humidity is actually like was Bangkok. I think in 2011 is when I had visited, and or 2010. And oh, it's like the minute you step outside the house, your clothes just cling on to you. Like you'll be in air conditioning and everything. You step outside, your glasses fog up, and your clothes just like stick to you because you just start sweating the minute you step out. It was just not fun. So yeah, I don't enjoy humidity at all. And the other place in the US, I think the most humid place, I did visit New York once in the summer, and oh, it was so humid there too. Like very warm, very humid, and Houston is the other place. I haven't visited Illinois actually. I think only in transit at the airport, which doesn't count. But yeah, I haven't visited Illinois. Someday. Yeah, Louisiana can be very humid as well. So just to let people know on other platforms like Facebook or Twitch who are watching me, I'm talking to Jillian Youve on YouTube. She has her own YouTube channel and she does amazing yarns as well. So in case people are wondering why am I mumbling to myself about weather, I'm not talking to myself. I am talking to another person. So people cannot read comments across different platforms, but I can read all the comments on one window. So I just think I sometimes forget that people don't know that there are other people listening. So now we are moving on to the Merino. So that's what I have done is basically I've created a mix of the tiny nests. So it kind of mixes all of them up. And I plan to do a 3-ply of this yarn. And for this merino, my drafting changes a little bit. I even treadle a little slow because it's not that long a staple length than the Pulworth silk in order to get the same thickness. And I do checks on the thickness of the yarn every now and then, but I'm not being like, so I'm looking for like around 35 wraps per inch for this one, and it's lying well out there. The other thing that I do is create a cheat sheet and see if my singles are more or less matching with my singles that I've spun before, and also if my 2-ply is has the same amount of twist and same amount of thickness. And so this is a 2-ply test, and this is a 3-ply out here, and this is going to be a 3-ply yarn. So that's the weight I'm looking for. And if we see out here, my 2-ply is like a heavy sport weight. uh, yeah, so that's coming out to be like a sport weight yarn, and I do want a worsted weight. So if I look at the 3-ply, I do get into the worsted weight thickness. So these things are not like perfect measures as well, because yeah, no, TK weight, it's getting tight. Yeah, worsted weight, I think. All right, take care. Happy dying fiber. I don't mean dying death. Okay, have fun dyeing your fiber and your yarns, and we'll meet again in this virtual world. Thank you for joining in, Jillian. All right, so the merino is so soft. I love how the way this one spins. for a join. So it's always nice to fluff up your fiber at the end, add a little twist, catch on a few fibers, and then draft it with the rest. You get a very seamless join with the fibers. Sometimes they are better than others, sometimes they are not so great, but that's the nature of doing these things by hand. It's fine if it's not perfect. I like those imperfections because it does reflect the fact that it was somebody made it by hand. I approach my clay work also that way. People might think and consider that, oh, yes, it's perfect stuff, but I know there are some imperfections in things, but I let them be. Since I have a threshold, is what I'm trying to say. And if it's a really bad thing which I cannot sell, then I get to keep the mug. That's what happens. That's how that one landed up with me. See, when I have some felted fluff on the edge, it's really hard to avoid a little bit of that fluff when you're hand painting. There are few dyers whose fiber I've seen is just complete perfection. I have no idea how they get it so even that I don't see any extra fluff on the edge. I'm getting there, I just need more practice. And I don't like to kettle dye my fiber. Yarn, I don't mind kettle dyeing for the kind of effects I want, but um, fiber, I think it's also got to do with the my induction heater for where I steam, or where I cook the fiber. So I think it gets too hot and the next setting is too low, so there is no in between, and that's what kind of gets my fiber a little bit more messed up than I like if I try to kettle dye fiber. So I prefer to hand paint it on and steam it. That works a lot better for me. It gives me a much better prep. Like this is how this one is dyed. And maybe if there is any interest in seeing how I dye fiber, let me know, and maybe can go live doing that sometime. I don't think I've gone live dyeing fiber ever, so that would be something to play around with. Plus, I'm out of all my yellow fibers, so it wouldn't hurt to dye some. Draft it too much. You draft too much, and your fiber will break off from its source. So I do kind of like a short backward. That's like my comfort zone spinning. I remember when I was spinning for socks, I kind of found it hard to do this. I almost had to do a short forward throughout to get, very consistent and fine spinning done. This I think will be an interesting yarn at the end, with all the three different colors all plied together into a three ply. I hope the colors nicely distribute. I know it's mostly all yellows and yellow greens, but still, I I would like some variation, but also some color blocks happening, so that'll be fine. Let me show you what it looks like on the bobbin. Okay, there you go. So see, it has a lot of light green and dark green. I know this light can be super harsh at times. Let's try this. Okay, I think this might be better light, at least to see the colors. But then I don't get to see. Let's see that. Okay, that might be better. Yeah, I don't like the amount of light I'm getting. I'm trying to load up my bobbin very evenly, but you know, I'm not Evanita, who does an amazing job of loading up her bobbins. I get chatty and I forget. She can get chatty and forget too, but then she will wind hers perfectly. She'll hand wind them on, and it's just beautiful seeing pictures of her bobbin. I think she's been rightfully called the human woolly winder. I have some more of this fiber left, so before I switch off, I think I should be able to finish this and be around half an hour of me spinning this. So I sometimes try to think and calculate how much time it takes me to spin, but then I think if I sat and calculated how much time I spend doing this, I might not do much of it. I might be like, oh my goodness, I spent so many hours spinning this yarn. But it is a lot of joy doing this. So looking at a clock and doing this stuff is just not fun. That's why I can never answer the question as to how long does it take you to make a yarn, or how long does it take you to make a mug, because if I actually sat down and kept looking, like I know my mug's turnaround time as to how much time it takes me, like how quickly I can get you a mug if you placed an order now. Like I can do that. But like how many hours it takes me to make one mug is kind of like a hard thing for me to determine. So so I can get a mug from clay, start to finish in a 2 week turnaround time approximately. And I've done that even in slightly shorter times if I have not bothered to sleep at all. But I can. The issue is not of, if you say, oh, 2 weeks, and why is there a 4 or sometimes even more, 4 to 6 week turnaround time? for my mugs, it's because I can't just make one mug and you know, fire it, glaze it, and fire it again for the glaze firing. It can't be just one mug. It has to be 50 mugs at least to fill up the kiln. And so sometimes you could be in the beginning of the cycle of when I'm making the mugs, or towards the end, and you could get in at the right moment so you can get your mug in time. Hey, hut armoires. Okay, Twitch has the most amazing names which I can never pronounce, but welcome. Thank you for joining in and joining my spinning channel. Today it's spinning. Sometimes it's clay. So just spinning some yarn for a knitting project actually. We'll see. The goal is at least first to make the yarn, and hopefully it will work out well for the knitting project I have planned for it. So Hart, are you a spinner? Are you a knitter? Are you a clay person? You make oh, you make armor. Oh, okay. Oh, that's pretty neat. So what materials do you make it out of? Oh, leatherwork, steelwork, sewing. Nice. So I have heard, maybe you must have heard of it too, that there are actually sewing machines that can sew through plywood. A friend of mine told me he has one. I haven't seen it in working, but he says, yeah, he has a sewing machine which you can actually sew plywood through. So means I imagine I'm sure there are sewing machines which sew leather, because you see handbags and everything. But I never thought there would be a machine with which you could stitch together pieces of plywood. Wow. So yeah, there are maybe yeah, that's what, if you can do 8 mm leather, which is 8 mm leather is quite thick. So yeah, you could probably do thin plywood as well. Neat. So do you do it for like costume stuff, or is it just a hobby? I like stuff which is different than what you usually see. I don't think I've met anyone who works with, making armor. Oh, for cosplay, yeah, that's cool. I've seen some pretty interesting costume stuff being made for cosplay, but out of, like foam things and all. It's you probably cringe at that because you're making it out of real leather and steel and stuff, and people are getting away with making it out of foam and spray painting it metallic to look like metal. So I can see why a purist would go like, no. But it's another creative aspect of how people make things. And I did see a video recently of someone uh, making. I'm very bad with superheroes and stuff, so I can't tell who is who, but they had made a whole costume for someone with lights and all, which was pretty neat. Hi, Deborah. Thank you. I'm glad. You like the wheel and hopefully like my spinning as well. But I think you saw my posting yesterday that the wheel is officially mine and her name is Sheila. So, yes, exactly. It's art no matter what you make from it. So, in order to let some people know online, I am live on Facebook, I'm live on Twitch, and I'm live on YouTube at the same time. So, if I'm having conversations which you think I'm having with myself, I'm not. I'm actually talking to somebody. So maybe you cannot see the comments, but I can. So just to let you know that I haven't completely lost it yet. I'm glad you enjoy the spinning, Deborah. It's so I decided to do something very simple today. Just a regular worsted weight yarn. Uh, I've just made it a little bit more interesting so it's not monotonous, that it's a bunch of yellow green colors. I've made these tiny little nests, and uh, the goal is to basically spin them out of order, but like randomly picking up one of them and spinning. But random is actually a pattern, so I have kind of made sure that the mix is kind of even, and I put them in these tennis ball containers, and then they're put in that order in which I want to spin them. So I just pull one out and join and start spinning. And this is going to be turned into a 3-ply yarn, and yeah, that's where we are at. And it's three different fiber braids that I'm mixing up together. So rather than spinning, just the three braids separately and then doing a 3-ply, I decided to break them up into smaller chunks and mix them all up uh, for spinning all the 3 plies. So I'm very curious to see how this yarn will turn up because of that. So the different fiber blends uh, I have a Pulworth Silk 8020, which was from Rainy Creek. This green that I'm spinning right now is a pistachio colorway from um, Sweet Georgia Yarns. This is a 8515, and the other yellow which I was spinning, which is out here, that's a Merino, which I dyed myself. Did I knit my socks? Yes, I did. These are my hand knit socks. The yarn is self-striping yarn from Mustache Yarn. I love the way she does her self-striping yarn. So Hut asked, I tried to stream to multiple places before, but it caused a lot of stuttering, unfortunately. Yes, I do occasionally have that trouble as well. So I have that trouble when I'm not close to my Wi-Fi. Currently, I'm in my fiber studio, and my Wi-Fi is pretty strong out here, and I have not had that trouble at home in my fiber studio. But in my clay studio, which is actually just a level below this room, I do have Wi-Fi issues. The signal is not just as strong. It's pretty good. Like, I can still watch Netflix and Amazon Prime and everything on my TV there, but and it doesn't buffer at all or anything. But when it comes to streaming to multiple platforms, it will buffer out there a few times. The one reason it was also happening was, well, the signal was slightly weak, so I did get an extender which helped. It still buffered occasionally, And the other issue was my laptop is really old, so it wasn't even recognizing like the high signal from my router, from my Wi-Fi router. So I got another external dongle for it, and that has improved the connection significantly. Like I rarely get any glitches even in the studio now. I still do, but not like how it was before. It's a lot better. So maybe try something like that. Oh, yours is hardwired. Oh, you live in the middle of English countries. Yeah, internet. Yeah, so even with hardwired stuff, yeah. Then it is basically, if that's the max you can get, then that's the max you can get. Yeah, I'm kind of pretty much in the middle of the city, so it's not. I get a pretty decent signal at home, and almost everything in our house is connected with Wi-Fi because it is it is just so much more expensive to have hardwired stuff running around the house, and the signals is pretty strong that Wi-Fi works for all our devices pretty well. But yeah, I do have another pair of socks actually that I need to start knitting. I did finish that spin. Let me show you. I think I can show you. It's actually like a little bit of a secret project. I won't tell exactly what it is or anything, but it let's see. I think I can show it better out here. But it's self-striping yarn, and it's actually in all the rainbow colors. I did spin this myself. The colors, I think the colors are showing up more true in this camera right here. Yeah, that's more true. The colors out here just look a little bit overblown. There's just too much artificial light falling on it. But you can see it's pretty nice, crisp yarn. I This was fiber I spun, and then I did a chain ply. That's why we have very distinctive stripes that are going to happen. And uh, the way I had split my fiber and everything, like the colors, is so that I would get maybe one or two stripes in the sock of every color, and the color would switch. So I'm looking forward to knitting this. Actually, I'm going to wind this into yarn balls today and going to cast on and start on them. And I usually spin my socks toe up, and so I have two skeins, and I'm hoping to get mm, almost matching socks. They won't be like truly matching, but they will be cousins. Like when I have like some mustache yarn, she sells skeins of these yarns which are self-striping, the ones which I'm wearing right here, and she calls it her OCD socks. So she goes through a lot of pains to make sure that you get matching pair of socks if you start at the same location, and they stripe like exactly identically to each other. But those are dyed from a bare yarn. So the yarn is already a commercial yarn which you dye in a certain way, so you get those perfect stripes. The yarn that I just showed you, this was actually fiber, which is just like this, which is dyed in sections. And I split it up and spun it up. And so I'm kind of trying to do a striped version. So the chances of them matching is very less. But because of the way I have split the fibers almost equally for both the braids, I'm hoping that I'll get kind of the same kind of striping action happening. Like the stripes would be almost the same thickness on both the socks, so they will look a lot more matchy matchy. But we'll see. Don't know until you actually do it. So we shall see. Yeah, that is a project I need to cast on today. I will not say what the fiber is or anything because I'm kind of reviewing it to see how it works out. But so far, the spinning experience has been great, and we'll see how the socks turn out. And I can usually complete a pair of socks within a week, 10 days, if that's like the only project I'm working on. But we'll see. I will cast on soon, and it really depends on the kind of yarn it is. And self-striping socks go so much faster than anything else because it's like you are there is a sequence in the colors, and whenever you're knitting you're like, okay, just another row till I reach the next color and another row till I reach. It's like potato chips. You can't just stop at one. You just keep going on and on, so it goes a lot faster. So self-striping socks, I like it for that reason. it's uh, it's a lot of fun to knit. I also had this thought of maybe knitting them on the sock machine. I do have a circular sock knitting machine which I use very often for knitting socks from commercial yarn. I haven't yet used it for hand spun, and I'm also kind of thinking maybe it won't be a bad idea to try this time. I really don't know yet whether I want to do that. So we'll see. Maybe I might. Though I think if I do knit them on the sock machine, it's going to be a little bit hard because the gauge is going to be different from what my commercial sock yarn usually is. So there's going to be some testing involved, and I don't want to lose any yardage because of my testing. And I think I will, you know, not have enough left to finish the socks. Yeah, it'll be a good day when you wear self-striped socks. Yes. And the thing is, it's like it's so much fun to wear crazy wild colors in socks, right? Like the socks that I'm wearing, right? It was gray with that rainbow stripe in between, but I like to change things up a little bit. I actually got two pairs of socks out of that single skein because I used contrasting toes and heel, and I got two pairs out of it. And knowing that I have that big bright orange toe in my shoes, which nobody knows about, makes me happy. So you can just go crazy and wild with socks, which is just so much fun. I am actually, the reason why I haven't started on that other pair of socks with the hand spun is because my needles are on another sock yarn project. And that sock project is it's not very complex, it's just complicated. So it's not very hard to do, but it just takes some concentration. It's not like just plain stockinette socks. It's That sock pattern is Lucy Need Bees Fiesta socks, and I've been having a lot of fun knitting it, but I've been knitting it on it for a while because it's not mindless knitting. So I've gone past the leg. I'm now on the heel of. I'm knitting both the pairs together. So I'm now at the heel of those socks, and hopefully I'll be done eventually. And but I think I'm going to remove those needles from there and cast on for this because I like the needles which are there on that needle. I do have extra pair of sock needles, but I don't prefer them. I won't tell the ones which I don't prefer because I think they do make great needles, but for socks I don't like them particularly. The ones that I do like are the higher needles for socks. So that's what I'm hoping I can get to next. Yeah, and the reason why I sometimes do this thing with self-striping yarn to have contrasting toes and heels is for one reason that self-striping sock yarn is more expensive than regular indie dyed yarn, and for a good reason. It is very time consuming to dye your yarn to make perfect stripes. Hey Elena, long time no see. Thank you for joining in. So I was talking about socks and self-striping sock yarn. It's like I said, it's so much better when it's more expensive because of the time it takes. So if you can get two pairs out of it by uh, adding contrasting heels and toes, all the better. Plus, these are merino nylons, which they do last a long time. I still haven't had. I have maybe one pair that has worn out after a lot of use. So, and mine usually wear out at the toe. So that's the reason why at the toe I use some commercial Regia solid colored yarns and stuff so that they last longer. So it also extends their life. So you get the most out of your money. My thoughts. So Elena, I don't know if you heard or saw my post from yesterday, but let me introduce you to Sheila. This is Sheila, the Masha Craft Aura Wheel is here to stay, and it is in its forever home. So the artist in residence program has come to a conclusion, though you never stop learning. Hi, Sheila. Yes. Say hi. Say hi back. That's what she's doing right now. She's saying hi back. No, this is I think they call this a 7 ounce bobbin, but 7 or 8 ounce bobbin, but you can really fit in a lot on it. So how did you two meet? So don't tell me, Elena, you were completely out for the whole artist in residence program. But essentially, what happened is I've been spinning on my Lendrum My Lendrum doesn't have a name. None of my fiber tools have names except for this one. She demanded one basically. Um, so what happened was with the Lendrum, I was struggling with certain kinds of art yarns, and I think you joined me more for the live feeds then when I was making some art yarns on it, and there were just some things I was struggling with on it. Plus, the bobbin is a little bit on the smaller side. So last year, uh, do you know Evanita? You probably do, since you're local to Washington and you are in the fiber circle. So she saw my struggles on my live feeds, and she pointed out that she brought it to attention to Susie Brown of Fibery Goodness, Tiny Studio Magazine, and they have a running artist in residence program where this wheel was first used by Susie herself, after which it was used by um, uh, Brench. I'm going to mess up her name. I know her first name is Bren, and then after that it went to Christian Knight of Three Ravens Fiber Studio. I think it's Three Ravens. I mess up names sometimes so bad. Shame on me. But and then they said, okay, that residence program got over. So Susie contacted me and said that, hey, would you like to be part of the residence program and you can work on this wheel for a few months to see if it actually solves your issues for the kinds of yarns you want to make. And yes, Deborah, the Lendrum does have limitations with the art yarns. It's still nice. It has a nice big enough orifice that I could do quite a bit of art yarns on it. But there was a certain limitation when I started doing art yarns that I was super coiling and then passing through the thing again or adding really big objects on it and stuff like that. So the artist in residence program actually started in October. So I can't believe you have been out of the loop for that long. But it was so I was, spinning all the art yarns and posting about it. We were doing a lot of live feeds in the Fibery Goodness group. I have written on several articles in the last few months for their magazine and for their blog post. And if you haven't heard about the magazine, Elena, I highly recommend checking them out. It's a really good magazine. They have a digital. They have had a digital subscription all this while, but their next issue is going to be a print one. And after I saw the preview of the print magazine, I had to subscribe right away to get the print as well. So it is Susie takes a lot of care in putting things together, like the layouts. It's a tiny studio magazine. Let me put a link in the group. Um, it is called fiberygoodness.com. Where is the Facebook live event? And I can put the link here. Okay, so there you go. Yes, there was a really fun spinning with that program, and you should subscribe to it, Deborah. It's really nice. Like I had the digital subscription, of course, and that was really good that I went back to reading it. Like, there are a few magazines that I go back and reread things again and again. It has, some how-to things and all of that. But what it really, it talks about fiber artists and the stories behind them and their lifestyles. So it's not just about, oh, this person made this yarn, this person made this yarn. It's like, why did they make the yarn? What inspires them? What does their studio space look like? What they draw inspiration from, what are their backstories, how do they land up, how do they source their material. Like, there is just so much information on a it's different from Ply magazine, which is also a very good magazine. um, but it's so much more about the fiber artists and how their mind works. So I highly recommend it. So that's the reason why this is one magazine which I've kind of gone back and uh, read some articles again. Oh, I made a mess here. So I highly recommend. And the print version, which they are actually looking for subscribers right now, is it looks so amazing. So so Greg Lade, I hope I'm saying your name right. It is this a double drive wheel, flyer driven or bobbin driven. So this is what is called a modified double drive wheel. This is the Craft Aura wheel, and if you look back here, and I can show you even. So it does have two drive bands. One goes over is for the flyer and one is for the bobbin, and it has a tensioner on the side as well. Out here, that's where the tensioner is. Hi, Casper. Yeah, it's okay. Casper wanted to come and say hi. Deborah, you want to see my articles in the magazine? Yes. So this is so I'm answering to Greg. So it's a really good wheel. It has an open delta, which you can do some really fine, consistent yarns. But also, if you want to do crazy art yarns, there is nothing that's going to be limiting the size of the yarn that you're putting in, because you can always pass it through these open hoops and put it onto your bobbin. You don't have to cut your yarn for anything, which was the reason I was having trouble with my Lendrum. Like, it has a closed, regular orifice. So Deborah, you want to see my articles? Yes. I have Susie has a really nice way of um, what do you call it? What's the word I'm missing in my head? Of curating about all the things that come into the the magazine and how it's put together. And when I've written articles for her, it's not like I just get something from her like, hey, why don't you write something? No, there is actually a very clear plan of what she wants me to throw on, and then we'll exchange ideas, and then I do a write up, and we go. There's a little back and forth to make it exactly what she wants it to be. So Greg says, "Oh, you repair antique wheels." Yeah. So check out these wheels. Are they are made by Maja Craft? Let me move it back here so you have a better view. They are made by Maja Craft in New Zealand, and it's a really good wheel. Uh, I really like it for what it does, the way it looks, and yeah, I can give you this angle view while I'm spinning. And it's so I was getting back to the artist in residence. She is beautiful, isn't she, Greg? And I actually just announced yesterday that this wheel is mine after the artist in residence program uh, got concluded, and her name is Sheila. So That's what I'm calling her. And coming back to Elena, if you're still there, I was participating in that artist in residence program, wrote articles, did all of that, and we have come to the end. And what they did was they sent me this wheel as part of that program that I could test out the wheel, see if it made the yarns I could make wanted to make. Plus, they send me like the hackle and a bunch of other tools as well. So it is different. Like double drive wheels do work different. Like I'm used to scotch tension the with the Lendrum and my Hanson electric wheel as well. So that's basic scotch tension, right? You want take up, you just crank up your tension band, and then the yarn gets taken up faster. You want higher speed, treadle faster, or go to the right whirl for faster speed. With this, it's different because it's it so what happens with the Lendrum is or what trouble I was having is, first it was passing those big textured yarns in, but as the bobbin got full you had to keep cranking up your tension. You know how when you're spinning and there isn't enough take up, you kind of crank up your scotch tension so that the yarn finally starts taking up. That doesn't happen with this wheel. It kind of like, once you set it up, of how the bobbin and flyer are driven. So that's why it's double drive, because both of them are driven. And it's a little modified than traditional. So they both always kind of are going at the same speed throughout, from the beginning of the bobbin to the end of the bobbin. So you don't have to mess with it towards the end even. And you'll still get that consistent take up and everything from start to the finish. So regarding the artist in residence thing, it did get concluded, and the wheel is here to stay. And so this is my next wheel, which has been added to the flock. Uh, I also wanted to determine whether whether it actually does do all the things I wanted to do, and will I miss my Lendrum, because I was like, okay, it's a deciding factor whether uh, does it really do what it needs to do, or you still keep going back to your previous wheel. So what I did was I packed up my Lendrum to see since October, and to see whether there was any point that came that I said, oh, I really wish I had my Lendrum because this wheel doesn't do this or something. It was like a test I did, but the Lendrum is still packed. I still haven't gone back to it, and it's still sitting there. It's a very beautiful wheel. I might get it out this spring, summer, so that I can spin with it outside. This wheel is pretty cool because I I can spin it castle-like. Let me see if I can move the camera angle a little bit, or move the camera behind so you can see this. Okay, let's see if you can do this. So right now the orifice is towards the left a little bit, because that's how I like to draft when I'm doing consistent regular yarns. When I'm doing coarse spinning or art yarns, I like the castle-like setup which the Lendrum has, which is straight up. On this wheel, I can just loosen this up and move the head straight up, and I can have it castle-like. If I want to do long draw, which I haven't done yet, but I've seen people do, I could move this to the extreme end out here and tighten it here, and I can spin it this way. So let's see. So I can place the wheel like this, and I can do a long draw pulling this way. So it has that option as well. So, and plus, if for travel, I don't want to push it down all the way. For travel, I can fold it down this way, and it has a handle out here with which I can carry it and move it around. But it is still a heavier wheel than the Lendrum. It's not as light as a Lendrum. So let me tighten this up back to its location. So in spite of moving it around like that, I don't need to mess around with my tension bands or anything. They are all set up. And this is the other, the tensioner, kind of like a Scotch tension, which works on one of the drive bands. So those are kind of like the different things it can do, which makes it good. But because this is such a special wheel to me, I kind of don't want to be taking it up from my fiber studio to the backyard and bringing it up again and down on an everyday basis. I like the setup out here I have with the wheel and the cameras and everything when I'm spinning live. So this will kind of remain in the studio. But what I was thinking is that since the weather is nice outside, I might take the Lendrum outside. That's what I'm thinking of. Oh, and regarding the bobbins, this is what they call the jumbo bobbin, which is kind of like the standard that it comes with. And there is a lace bobbin setup, which I can show it to you. So there is a lace bobbin setup with which I had actually spun my socks. So that's this one with the lace bobbins, which are smaller than that. But I even on this, when I was spinning for the socks, I spun up my entire 4 ounces on this. I didn't have to switch bobbins. All my entire 4 ounces was on this single bobbin, which was pretty amazing. I've never spun so fine. And I had wanted to test out this wheel mostly for art yarns, but when I heard that it has capabilities of doing art yarns and doing fine as well, I said, let me try it, and I spun the most consistent sock yarn I ever had. The other option it comes with is a stylus as well. So the entire flyer assembly comes out, and these are the mini bobbins which get attached on with a stylus. I've not used it much. Oh, this one will get screwed onto that, and that's how the stylus gets attached. And you can spin cotton long draw this way as well. Yes, it's very versatile. And these are the finer ones, but now you think this bobbin is big enough to handle everything, right? When I'm doing those big heavy textured art yarns and the crazy things out there, you can actually switch to the overdrive. That's the size of the bobbin. This easily holds a pound. Actually, I have put in more than a pound as well, and I still couldn't fill up the bobbin. This is huge, and it can handle all, yes, exactly, good grief, yes, it can handle bobbins this big as well. And because of the way the wheel is designed, I don't find any different effort of spinning on the regular flyer versus the flyer for this bobbin, even when it is completely full. I don't know how they have engineered that exactly. So yeah, these bobbins are really huge. It is as big as my head, believe it or not. And the jumbo bobbin, which is currently on the wheel, is this big. So that's the size difference. So this holds, I think, 7 or 8 ounces, and this one easily holds more than a pound. So it's and then, like I showed you what the smaller bobbins were. Let's pull them out. So that's That's the one with the lace flyer, and this one is the one with the stylus. So four different bobbin sizes, all on the same wheel. So these are, I'm very grateful that I've got a chance to try each one of these, and to give you an idea of the how it compares to Lendrum, since some of you have the Lendrum. So this is the regular Lendrum on which you can fill in like 2 ounces, and this is their standard. So it capacity wise, everything, options for the kind of spinning you can do, it can go from one extreme to the next. uh, this was the last yarn I made with uh, stacks in them. So these are the kind of textured yarns I really wanted to try on this wheel, and it just makes it so much more easier to do. So I highly recommend this wheel. It does take some time getting used to the fact because it is not Scotch tension. So if you come from the Scotch tension world, um, you know, it takes a while to understand that it's not as simple as, oh, just tighten this and the take up is more. So that you kind of have to figure out the ratio of the bobbin speed versus the flyer speed to understand take up. So that is something which is slightly different, but you can consider the black band almost like a Scotch tension to some extent. So it's not like completely different. Uh, and and then the other yarns that I've created, I can show you. So to give you an example, like, it's it's doing these kinds of yarns with a lot of add-ins, and look at the thickness of it. It's there's some pretty thick uh, coils and add-ins with beads in it, all of them that go in this yarn. This kind of stuff is so much easier to do on this wheel than what I could do previously. Now this yarn has wooden beads as thick as my thumb almost, slightly smaller than my thumb, but this would be really hard for me to spin the on the Lendrum. But on this wheel, it's just a breeze. I don't have to think. Plus, with that jumbo bobbin, capacity is not an issue, right? I still haven't been really be able to fill up that bobbin with. I have spun not just a single yarn. Like when I'm plying one after the other, and I plied like 3 different yarns on it, and I still couldn't fill up that bobbin. It's that big. But that's good because I don't have to then, break my yarn in between because of bobbin capacity. And for the art yarns, once you're applying them and they're so thick and textured and they have these add-in elements, they do take up a lot of room. So even this bobbin, I've managed to spin several art yarns on this. So yes, it does keep very good balance when I'm adding beads and other add-ins. The thing with the difference is that when you're spinning fine, you're spinning the wheel very fast, where the balance of the flyer and all matters a lot. In fact, they spend a lot of time on figuring on making sure that the flyer is completely balanced. Like I was going to add something on my flyer head, so some of my textured yarns went smoothly across. They said do it only for the textured yarn, because if you do it for the fine yarns, you're adding some extra, and I was just talking about adding a plastic tubing or something out here, and they said the balance would get off, so don't use it for fine yarns. So it's a very balanced flyer in that respect. When I'm doing art yarns and I'm adding those beads and everything, I'm not spinning that fast. I'm spinning pretty slow because I'm adding these different things and putting them on. But this, it's a very stable wheel. It it's not like, the head moves or anything when I'm spinning those big elements. There is no issue with balance at all. And like I said, with the big textured yarns, I'm not spinning at the speeds I'm spinning right now either. So in all those respects, it's a pretty neat way of putting together a wheel that can do more than one thing. I still haven't used the stylus for spinning. I have used the lace. The lace setup I had done for spinning socks, and that was something which I had not even considered spinning. I'd never spun fine because on my other wheels, it's like every time I started spinning fine, very quickly I went into my default mode. Uh, but with this wheel, the thing is that because you set up your drive bands with a certain take up and everything, so if you have started spinning fine and you have set up your wheel that way, if you don't mess with your setup, you will kind of be forced to spin that same consistent yarn throughout. So that's what kind of pushed me to try it, and I continued to keep spinning for the sock yarn and came out so consistent. um, and I actually loved it. Like, that wasn't even in my plans of using this wheel for. So, all right, Elena, glad you could join in. Realize it's Saturday, so, and the sun is out. Go out, enjoy some sun. But yeah, and now I'm glad that this wheel is part of my flock right now. So I don't have a huge flock of wheels. I have my Lendrum, which, like I told you, since October it's packed up. So I'll probably get it out to spin in the backyard. And I do have my e-spinner and my Hansen electric spinner. And I do like that I like that for consistent yarns like this one. Like, I was in two minds whether to spin this on the Hansen itself, so that I can continue doing some art yarn on this, and that might still happen, uh, because every time I get an idea for an art yarn, I just want to do it, and I can stop spinning this on, maybe do it on the e-wheel, but then I can do the art yarn on this. So, and I do like the Hansen for plying. I'm a lazy plier. I don't ply my yarns that much. All right, Deborah, thank you for joining in. So I do like the Hansen for doing my traditional ply and stuff, because I can just set it up and be plying, and I can ply pretty quick. So I tend to not ply my yarns often. I just leave them as singles and just wait when I have a particular project in mind and say that, okay, once I get that project, then I have an idea, then I'll be like, okay, let's ply these up together to get the yardage I need for it. And I procrastinate for plying. So that's the reason why, the Hansen is kind of nice. I don't have to treadle. I can just hold my yarns together and ply it on it. So I've been using it mostly for plying. I did spin up some singles on it as well recently. while this yarn was busy making art yarns. It really depends on what you want from it. All right. Wow, I've been on for an hour and a half. So I am going to sign off and hope you had a good time sitting, spinning with me, talking about wheels, getting introduced to Sheila, my new Aura wheel, and feel free to ask any questions you have had. You can put them in comments. I reply to whatever has been asked even after my live is over. So I'm live on all the different platforms, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. And thank you, Greg, for joining in. And it was nice chatting about wheels with you. Uh, and to everyone else to watching, I'm glad you could join in and give me company. Uh, you can support me on my Patreon page, which the link is down there, or go to my website, check out what I actually do. I do make pottery, make clay, make mugs. So if you want some mugs and stuff, all inspired by yarn, that's the place to go. So creativewithclay.com, and I have some art yarns up out there as well. Oh, thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for joining in. Yes, definitely look into it. There are lots of videos and everything out there as well, but I kind of gave you a brief of what all this wheel is capable of. So definitely give it, if you can actually try out the wheel, that's good. And I'm glad I got that opportunity to try it out and then determine, yes, that this is the wheel for me, for the kinds of yarns I want to make, and more than that. So, all right, take care, everyone. Bye.